Excuse me, y'all. My nose is itching. Hi, I'm Meta Luna coming at you with some Omega energy. Now, this is a good topic, but we're going into Leo energy. And Leo energy is a little bit flashy. Sometimes it can be a little bit over the top. It's ego driven, but not always in a bad way. A lot of times when we're experiencing Leo lunar energy, we want to gussy ourselves up a little bit. Every now and again, I feel like it, but sometimes I don't. Um, Also, in Leo energy, we most likely will experience some heart energy, heart chakra energy. Leo's, for me, is the heart chakra. Because even though I tell you about looking through the chakras based on like a gravity going from head to toe, I also want you to consider that we're not one dimensional. We're several dimensions, okay? And I welcome you to study the chakras for yourself. Point out mistakes that I've made to see if you actually catching on with some of this stuff. Point out the things that you agree with to see where you can get some kind of synchronicity. One of the reasons why I don't hand feed everything to you and I keep this information basic is one, there are people who are just now figuring out that they might want to know more about this stuff. And if I start speaking on an advanced level all the time, do that from time to time, they may get lost in the sauce. And I remember being lost in the sauce when I was younger, and that was not a good feeling, so I'm just not going to do that to people, okay? So if you find that this is a little too basic for you, then find another person who knows about this stuff, who may be speaking on a higher level about it. That's comforting for you, okay? Welcome to do that. In recent weeks, I've found so many more people, it depends on what app you're on, that can teach you things. And, you can take your hand and be like, okay, come with me over here. Here's where the information is. But what I won't do is hand feed you word for word everything I learned. Here's the thing. I remember being in school. I also remember my own journey in this vein. And I know there were things that I got given to me. I didn't have to really go into the books and study. There were either natural talents or natural gifts or things that a teacher has told me verbatim. Those things, even though they're significant and are important to me, and I dove deeper into it, were not as solid as the things that I dove into on my own. I'm going to give you topics and things for you to start to read up on for yourself. One of those things that I'm going to tell you over and over again is that I'm an Omnist. Read up on what that is. You don't have to be an Omnist to learn from me. Okay? An Omnist simply is someone who is respectful of all people's practices and belief systems. Because none of those things are harmful on its surface. It's when you try to apply that to other people in a form of punishment or judgment that it becomes harmful to the self and others. That has been my experience. That is my belief, okay? Because I have seen the changes in people for going to church, going to temple, and going to mosque, and the peace it gives people. I firmly believe that we all need something. And that could be untrue for some people. There are atheists out there, and I used to be one when I was younger. No matter what I saw, I was an atheist. My family didn't know that. But there was a little time before I got baptized that I was an atheist, because I'm like, there is no proof. And some of these things y'all saying about God is frightening and upsetting. But I come to a place over time to believe that God can be whatever I choose God to be. And if it's a reflection of me, then I can choose that too. Choosing who I am helps me govern myself in such a way that the God that exists in my mind is forgiving and loving and nurturing, but also stern And I choose that. Now, that is very, very vague. There's other levels to it, but what I choose is to believe that being of service, if you understand the energy of God, being of service to oneself and your family first and then the community is the path for me. If anybody wondering what I believe, do I worship anything? No, I do not. As an Omnist, I have respect for different religions. So if I go to your temple, your mosque, your church, I live near an Air Force base. I'm going to be respectful in all the ways that I know to respect. And one of the most lovely experiences I've had in the recent decade was going into some of the oldest chapels in Italy with my head covered and having deference for those who have their belief structure there. So understand, I have all the upper respect for those belief structures. What I will not participate in is using those belief structures to cause harm to our community. That part is important to me. Now, if you use that to govern yourself, that's A-okay to me. When you try to use that to govern others is when you've taken away their free will. Now, that's the part right there. We don't take away others' free will. It's one of the reasons why even in spiritualism, I am a staunch proponent of people learning tarot. If there is one way I have understood that you giving your power over to another when you don't even realize it psychologically is during a reading. You have to really trust that person. This is why I highly recommend you get word of mouth, or at least watch enough of the content to see if this person actually has the best interest for themselves and the public in mind. And how can you know that? Are they teaching you other things for healing yourself? Are they advocating for you to get your wellness, mental wellness and physical wellness together for yourself? Are there constant moments of, okay, this person is coming back. Oh, you should be excited because money's coming. That quick ego boost or that pull to get you to come back and come back and come back, is that present? Because if those things are present, you might want to back the hell up out of there. I'm just saying, you might want to back the hell up out of there. Because that's not always what's best for your mental and physical health. Be that as it may, there are times where a tarot reading can actually give you some insight on your present so that you can shape your future. That's how I read. I give insight on the present, the immediate present, right now, maybe a couple days from now, or just the energy that surrounds you. And then I'm going to give you some advisement based on what I see, based on what I feel. Okay? Not one time ever should anybody be doing anything that you haven't given them permission to do. Okay? Every single step of the way, I'm asking your permission. And I'm asking the permissions of your ancestors to join with you. Either that permission is granted or it isn't. I can always tell immediately. But I've never had a problem. The point is to remain respectful. And here's the thing about the people who read for thousands at the same time. A lot of times it's their own energy that you're resonating with. Something that they've experienced in a recent past or that's coming up for them. Because when they're the ones pulling the cards, especially when they're reading for thousands and they're not setting an intention towards anyone, that's their energy coming out. At least that's been my understanding. So you're all on the same wavelength, you're going to probably have some similar experiences. And so they're giving you advisement based on the advisement they would give to themselves in the same situation. So in that situation, it holds a lot of power. You got to really trust the person you're viewing when that is the case. Because what if you ain't going through that and somehow what you're viewing convinces you that you're about to go through that, or that you are going through that when you're not? For example, what if you're in a tarot reading and someone starts talking about somebody lying, stealing, or cheating? And you, before going into that tarot reading, you had no idea or hadn't even had that on your mind. And then suddenly, a wave of paranoia hits you. And then you start having emotional and mental doubt within oneself about your circumstances. But what if none of that's going on? And here's the kicker. Every single person that comes to me for spiritual guidance, do a little mini quick check-in. Mental, emotional, physical health. And here's how that can be done. One, and it's for any readers out there too, or spiritual teachers out there too. I'm talking to you from a vein of mental health at this moment. One, ask them when is the last time they needed assistance or was able to bathe and dress themselves. Ask them when is the last time they ate regularly and meals that they found were helpful to them throughout the day. Ask them about their relationships, friendships, and if those are in any way stable or healthy. Ask them about what they do for socialization and fun. Because if a lot of those things are giving you concerning answers, like they're not able to bathe and dress themselves appropriately, sorry y'all, or they're not able to eat even when they want to, or maybe have not wanted to eat for days. These are signs of depression or some other mental illness that may need to be treated through therapeutic means. They're not able to hold on to relationships or friendships, even though they try to. Now, there's some people who are hermits, like myself. I go through modes where I'm a hermit. I don't want to be socializing at that time. Sometimes I can go months like this and be perfectly fine. But if it's somebody who's actively trying, but they're not able to maintain healthy relationships, figure that on out. And then the last part, do they actually have aspects of their life that they find to be enjoyable? If a lot of these things are sounding like, okay, there might be some other stuff going on here, take a pause. And don't be afraid to ask people, have you ever thought about harming yourself and others? And do you think about harming yourself or others presently? Because that's key. Sorry, y'all. Some people's is touching. Anyway, because that's crucial. Because one of the things that I learned in my new avenue of doing things is some people are being blasted open spiritually before they can get at least some level, base level of normalcy for themselves. And psychosis is a real thing. And psychosis simply means someone who doesn't know the difference between reality and the present, and reality in the past, reality in the future, reality and delusion. And if they're in that place, you don't want to be reading tarot and telling them horrible things are happening to them, because you're going to further push them down emotionally, mentally, and their health will follow. This is why shouldn't be done willy-nilly, in my professional opinion. And this is one of the reasons why I do a little check-in. And I check in with them every single session to see how they're eating, how they're taking care of themselves, if they're able to function. These things are systems, because the moment I feel like there's danger in those areas is the moment we're talking about, okay, what mental health resources are in your area. I'm giving a crisis line just in case. In extremes cases, I'm letting them know that there's help. They don't always have to call 911, because especially in the Black community, That can be a scary thing to do. So I'm personally looking at what city and state they're in to see what their crisis hotline is, their main crisis hotline is. I'm looking around to see whether there is, office that if they have insurance, it will take their insurance and giving them that info. And if they don't have insurance and it's low cost, I'm looking for the low cost people to see where that info is whenever they need. Because this process isn't about me or money. Money's nice. I like to go to brunch. I done told y'all that. Every now and again I get these claws done. But it's not more important than the community's health and safety. Now I know. Some folks don't like that I do things that way. And I gotta try and not care about that. Sometimes I do, but most of the times I don't. I am going to give these people resources before I start teaching them about spirituality or any of those things, because maybe sometimes it's not a spiritual advisor they need. Sometimes it is a mental health professional. Y'all gotta be okay with that. So I'm gonna keep doing it that way. Okay? Now, do I believe that even if you have a little bit of gross energy, I call it gross energy, where it's stagnancy, a little mild depression, things like that, can it be helped with spiritual teachings? Absolutely. Spiritual practices? Absolutely. I believe that because it's worked for me and many others that I've helped. Taking spiritual baths, saltwater baths, going into body of water, praying in nature, releasing your tears often and not being afraid to do that, understanding the biochemical process of that, and making that part of your spiritual practice is having a good cry once a week if you need that. Oh yeah, I encourage that highly. Because I believe that can be helpful and beneficial. Oh, here's what I would love to happen, at least right now, is to have people who've been in the game of spirituality who actually have the best interests of the collective in mind when they're teaching and speaking, and themselves, to come together with those who are clinicians, who are not just book clinicians. They use their gut too. But they also have the best interest of the collective in mind when they're speaking and teaching and having sessions. They come together and figure out a space, place, understanding that we can work together and help these folks. Because I'm going to tell you something. Y'all going to have this professional life. Y'all going to have this deal. I firmly believe a lot of the things that were born in psychology, psychiatry, mental health, clinical mental health, were taken from the spiritualists of old. I've found too many of the tenets from these things in my books over the years for it to be any doubt. So one of the things I'm a firm believer of is that knowledge was stolen and rebranded as psychology. That knowledge was stolen and rebranded as clinical mental health. Now, is there other tenets and things within that paradigm that has been built over time to further grow the knowledge base? Yes. But then there's some things in there that y'all just did because y'all were testing on white males, or you were testing on a white collective. And when I say white, I mean Caucasian. And it don't apply to everybody, and your data is flawed, but yet they're still in our books. It's one of the reasons why I turned to spiritual in the first place, because I'm not trying to test you. If I'm going to test anything, I'm going to make sure it's something I'm testing to see if I'm doing the right thing. It's one of the reasons why I took my time with figuring out tarot. Because there were moments in which it was very beneficial for me, and there were moments in which it was not beneficial to me. And I had to figure out which was which before I proceeded to even do that with my clients. Which ways was it negatively impacting me and others? And which ways to do this that would actually be beneficial and give them something to think about and therefore heal. That's the only way I read. But that's the only way I test. It's understanding the dynamics of psychic abilities, but also not everybody who reads tarot is psychic or clairvoyant or have one of the clairs. Understanding that some people just have the gift for understanding the storyline that is being strung together, and it may or may not resonate with you. Having discernment in that area, I feel like it would be beneficial. Now, y'all ain't gotta believe me, but it would behoove you to be discerning when picking someone to teach you and to guide you through spiritual anything. Make sure that person knows how to be kind. Because, I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of us, and when I say us, I'm including all the folks that's been in this game for some years and years and years. Me, I've been low key. I ain't been in no circles. I've been doing it on my own like a hermit for many, many years. There's some people who just now figuring out I exist. Hey, been through a lot of shit. So, if you are not sure about that person, take some time. Check them out for a little while longer. And then you can choose the avenue or the person or the type of spiritualism that feel most comfortable with. Here's the thing. Here's a little tip, and this is a spiritual tip. You can take it or leave it. Ask your guides and ancestors. Pray. Ask them to help lead you to someone that's going to be helpful to you and not hurtful. Anyway, if you'd like an appointment, that information in the description below. And I do see pro bono. I do see the young, but no younger than 7. Okay? Teach those little bitties astrology and things like that. And they parents coping mechanisms to help with their process if they're going through anything particularly difficult. Those appointments are completely free. Okay? Till next time, you love.